Nara had studied human conflict for 3 cycles before her assignment to Earth. The Ren Collective had observed from a distance as the third global conflict erupted across the blue planet. The humans called it World War III, a simple name for the complex horror unfolding below. Nuclear exchanges had been limited so far, but conventional warfare had torn across continents with devastating efficiency. The perfect observation window, her supervisor had explained during the briefing. Their extinction event provides optimal conditions for undetected study. Now, as her small craft broke through Earth's upper atmosphere, Nara reviewed the mission parameters once more. The humans were considered a level 4 species intelligent enough to split their own atoms, but still primitive enough to use that knowledge primarily for destruction. The collective had spent centuries observing such species, documenting their rise and inevitable self-destruction. Earth was a textbook, advanced enough to develop globally destructive weapons, not mature enough to resist using them. A tragedy, but a predictable one. Nara adjusted her optical implants, filtering the harsh light as her ship descended through cloud cover. Below, the eastern seaboard of the North American continent spread out, once gleaming cities now partially darkened by power outages and the aftermath of precision strikes. Her ship was small, a standard observer vessel equipped with reflection dampers designed to avoid detection by Earth's tracking systems. Still sophisticated enough to bypass human security, yet unassuming if spotted visually. Previous observation missions suggested humans were too preoccupied with killing each other to notice subtle anomalies in their skies. Designated landing zone compromised, her navigation system announced. Alternative required. Nara frowned, her translucent fingers gliding over the controls. The planned landing site, a remote forested region, showed signs of unexpected human military presence. She'd need to find somewhere else. Scan for minimal human activity within 200 kilometers, she instructed. Before the system could complete its scan, warning lights flashed across her console. A targeting system had locked onto her ship, impossible for human technology to penetrate her dampers unless. Proximity alert, the ship announced with mechanical calm. Multiple aerial vehicles approaching. Detection confirms. Human military craft. Nara's 4 hearts accelerated their beating pattern. This wasn't supposed to happen. Humans couldn't detect her ship unless they were specifically looking for it with far more advanced technology than their databases indicated they possessed. Unidentified aircraft, a voice crackled through her communication system in accented English. You have entered United States restricted airspace. Maintain current altitude and speed. Any deviation will be considered hostile action. The Ren Collective had extensive language databases. Her translator converted the message instantly, but understanding the words didn't help Nara understand how this was possible. Her ship shouldn't be visible on their systems. Repeat, unidentified aircraft. Respond immediately or we will be forced to escort you to the ground. Nara considered her options. Her ship could outrun their fighters easily, but that would violate primary mission protocols. Observe without interference. Revealing advanced technology would contaminate the study. This is private research vessel, she responded, utilizing her language implant to communicate in English. Navigation error, will comply with instructions. There was a pause before the response came. Research vessel, you will be escorted to Andrews Joint Base. Maintain your current vector. Any deviation will result in immediate response. 2 military jets appeared, flanking her craft. Their primitive design almost made Nara laugh until she noticed the weapons systems locked onto her position. Primitive, but certainly capable of causing damage. This was unprecedented. No observer had ever been detected, much less intercepted, by a level 4 species. The mission parameters didn't cover this contingency. As her ship was escorted toward the military installation, Nara noticed something else unexpected. The fighters escorting her bore different insignia, one American, one Chinese. Nations that, according to her most recent intelligence, were actively engaging in combat operations against each other. Something was very wrong. The landing at Andrews Joint Base was tense but orderly. As her craft touched down on the tarmac, Nara saw dozens of armed soldiers surrounding the landing area again, wearing uniforms from nations that were supposed to be enemies. Attention craft occupant, a voice announced over speakers. Exit your vessel unarmed with hands visible. You will not be harmed if you comply. Nara hesitated. First contact was strictly forbidden by collective protocol for level 4 observation. But she was already detected, already landed on a military base. The contamination had occurred. Her priority now was gathering information about how they had detected her and surviving. She activated her biological modifier, adjusting her appearance to seem less alien. Her naturally translucent skin darkened to a human tone, her four-fingered hands shifted to display 5 digits, and her height reduced by 20%. She would still appear unusual to humans, but not immediately alien. Taking a deep breath of the ship's familiar atmosphere, she initiated the door sequence and stepped out into Earth's heavier gravity and oxygen-rich air. The sunset light felt harsh against her modified skin. Dozens of weapons pointed in her direction as she raised her hands in the human gesture of surrender she had studied. A man stepped forward from the line of soldiers. Tall, with dark skin and close-cropped hair, wearing a uniform with American markings and the insignia of high rank. "I am General Marcus Harrington, United Nations Joint Defense Command," he said, his voice controlled but tense. "On behalf of Earth's unified governments, I ask who you are and why you're here." United Nations Joint Defense Command, unified governments. Nara's training hadn't prepared her for this. According to all intelligence, Earth was in the middle of its most devastating conflict, not operating under unified command. "My name is Nara," she said carefully. "I am a research observer. My presence was meant to be undetected. I do not understand how you found my vessel." The general's expression remained impassive. "Your cloaking technology is advanced, but we've been expecting visitors, especially now." Expecting visitors, that was impossible. Earth had shown no signs of awareness of extraterrestrial civilizations. A woman stepped forward beside the general. She wore civilian clothing, a simple gray suit, and carried no visible weapons. "I'm Dr. Morgan Wells, Xenological Relations," she said. "We've been tracking your approach for the past 72 hours. Your arrival timing is interesting." Nara felt all 4 of her hearts racing beneath her modified exterior. The collective had catastrophically misjudged this species. "I was sent to observe," Nara said carefully, "nothing more." "Observe what exactly?" General Harrington asked, his tone hardening. Nara hesitated. The truth would be a diplomatic catastrophe, but lying seemed unwise when they had already demonstrated capabilities far beyond expectations. "Your conflict," she finally admitted. "My people study civilizations at critical development points." "You mean our war," Dr. Wells said, her expression unreadable. "You came to watch us destroy ourselves." Nara didn't respond, which was answer enough. "Secure the craft and escort our guest to containment," the general ordered, full protocol Sigma. As soldiers moved toward her ship, Nara fought to maintain composure. "My vessel contains nothing harmful to humans, but tampering may trigger safety protocols." "We'll take our chances," Harrington replied. "Dr. Wells will accompany you to more comfortable surroundings where we can continue this conversation." As Nara was led away, she noticed something remarkable. The base was operating with personnel wearing uniforms from at least a dozen different nations that, according to her briefing, should have been actively trying to destroy each other. Either the collective's intelligence was catastrophically wrong, or something had changed very recently. Inside a sterile building, Nara was led to a room that had clearly been prepared in advance, not a prison cell, but not comfortable either. A simple table, 2 chairs, and walls that her enhanced senses recognized as containing various scanning technologies. "Someone will be with you shortly," Dr. Wells said before leaving her alone. For 37 minutes, Nara sat in silence, reviewing the mission parameters and trying to understand how everything had gone so wrong. The humans should have been too busy with their global war to notice her arrival. They certainly shouldn't have had technology capable of detecting her ship through its reflection dampers, and they absolutely shouldn't have been operating under unified command. The door finally opened, and a man entered. He was younger than the officials she'd met so far, perhaps in his early 30s by human standards. He had light brown hair, intense blue eyes, and moved with the practiced efficiency of someone with military training, though he wore civilian clothes, dark pants, and a simple blue shirt with a small insignia she didn't recognize. "My name is Finn Reeves," he said, taking the seat across from her. "I've been assigned as your liaison." "Liaison suggests diplomatic relations," Nara observed. "I'm clearly a prisoner." A slight smile touched his lips. "Let's call you an unexpected guest we're eager to understand better." He placed a tablet on the table between them. "For instance, we're curious why your people would send a lone observer to a planet you believed was destroying itself." His phrasing confirmed her suspicion. "You're not at wars." "That's complicated," Finn replied, studying her with unsettling intensity. Until 3 weeks ago, we were engaged in what historians will likely call World War III. Limited nuclear exchanges, widespread conventional warfare, global economic collapse, all the hallmarks of civilization in crisis. And now, Nara asked, now we have visitors, he said simply. Amazing how quickly humans can set aside their differences when they realize they're being watched. Nara felt a chill. You detected others before me. A larger vessel maintaining position just beyond lunar orbit. They've made no attempt to communicate, but their presence was impossible to miss. Finn's eyes narrowed slightly. Are they connected to your mission? No, Nara said truthfully. I was dispatched alone. This was alarming. The collective maintained strict protocols about observation missions. No other ships should be in this sector. So there are at least 2 different alien entities suddenly interested in Earth during our moment of greatest vulnerability, Finn noted. That's quite a coincidence. I cannot speak for others, Nara said carefully. My mission was purely observational. To watch us die, there was no accusation in his tone, just curiosity. To document, Nara corrected. The collective studies civilizational development patterns. Self-destruction at your technological stage is common. Finn leaned back, something shifting in his expression. And do your people ever help the civilizations they study? Interference violates our primary protocols. So you just watch, take notes while worlds burn. Now there was an edge to his voice. We preserve knowledge, Nara explained. Many species throughout the galaxy follow similar development patterns. The transition from planetary to post-planetary civilization is particularly vulnerable to self-termination. And you've never considered that maybe, just maybe, some of those civilizations might have appreciated a warning. Or assistance, Finn asked. The question struck Nara as naively simplistic. History shows that external intervention often accelerates collapse through cultural shock. Non-interference ensures natural development. Natural development including extinction. If that is the path a species chooses. Finn's expression hardened. We didn't choose war. Individual humans in power made decisions that spiraled beyond control. That distinction is meaningless from a civilizational perspective, Nara said. It's the only distinction that matters, Finn countered. Humans aren't a monolith. We're billions of individuals with different desires, beliefs, and choices. Nara had studied enough level 4 civilizations to recognize rationalization when she heard it. Yet collectively, you created weapons of mass destruction and used them against yourselves. Yes, Finn admitted, we did, and 3 weeks ago we were hours away from a full-scale nuclear exchange that would have ended human civilization. He tapped something on his tablet. Then this appeared in orbit, and everything changed. He turned the screen toward her. It showed a massive vessel, not collective design. Its biomechanical structure and distinctive energy signature were unmistakable. Vraxian, Nara whispered before she could stop herself. Finn's eyes narrowed. You recognize it. The Vraxians were technically part of the collective, but operated with special dispensation due to their unique biological requirements. They weren't observers, they were harvesters. They followed the collective's observers, waiting for civilizations to collapse, then collected the biological and technological remains. But they never arrived before the collapse was complete. They shouldn't be here, Nara said, with genuine concern in her voice. Not yet. Yet, Finn repeated, so they were coming eventually. Only if Nara stopped herself. Only if we destroyed ourselves, Finn finished for her. Which explains why they arrived during what should have been our final days. They were getting ready for cleanup. The accuracy of his assessment surprised her. How did you detect them? Their technology should be far beyond your capabilities. A tight smile crossed Finn's face. We're full of surprises. When the Vraxian ship appeared, we detected the spatial distortion. Once we knew what to look for, adapting our systems to find smaller ships like yours was relatively straightforward. That was concerning. Either humans were far more technologically advanced than the collective had assessed, or you had help, Nara concluded. Someone provided detection technology. Finn neither confirmed nor denied this. Instead, he changed direction. When the Vraxian ship appeared, something remarkable happened. Nations that had been actively trying to destroy each other suddenly found common purpose. The United Nations Security Council held an emergency session. For the first time in history, unanimous agreement was reached within hours. On what? That whatever our differences, we weren't going to let some alien species watch us die without showing them exactly what humanity is capable of when united. There was pride in his voice. Ceasefire orders went out globally. A joint defense command was established with unprecedented speed. Because you fear invasion, Nara suggested. Because we finally had perspective, Finn corrected. Nothing unifies like an external observer, especially one whose ship has the same energy signature as weapons platforms. The Vraxians weren't supposed to have weapons on their harvester vessels, but Nara wasn't entirely surprised. They operated at the edges of collective protocols. The Vraxians won't attack unless provoked, she said, then immediately regretted sharing the information. Vraxians, Finn repeated the name. And your people are. The Ren Collective, Nara answered, seeing little point in hiding it now. And the relationship between your people and these Vraxians. Complex, Nara said carefully. We observe, they collect. Understanding dawned in Finn's eyes. They're scavengers. They were waiting for us to finish destroying ourselves so they could pick through what remained. Resource reclamation is more accurate, Nara corrected, though his assessment was essentially correct. Finn ran a hand through his hair, a gesture Nara recognized as stress from her cultural studies. So we have observers and scavengers, both arriving just as we were about to destroy ourselves. That's one hell of a coincidence. It wasn't a coincidence, of course. The collective's predictive models were extremely accurate. Earth had been on an irreversible path to self-destruction until something changed. What will you do with me now? Nara asked. That depends, Finn said. Your ship contains technology centuries beyond anything we possess. Some military leaders see you as a potential threat to be neutralized. Others view you as an opportunity, a source of advanced technology we could use against the larger ship if necessary. Neither option aligned with collective protocols. And what do you recommend? Finn studied her for a long moment. I think you're as surprised by this situation as we are. I think your people have been watching civilizations destroy themselves for so long that you've forgotten there are alternatives. History suggests. History is just data until it isn't, Finn interrupted. 3 weeks ago, we were making the same mistakes hundreds of other civilizations have probably made. Then something unprecedented happened. We looked up, saw we were being watched, and collectively decided to prove the observers wrong. The concept was so foreign to Nara that she struggled to process it. You stopped a global war because you were being observed. Because we suddenly had context, Finn explained. Our differences seemed smaller when measured against the stars. Nations that were ready to annihilate each other realized we might be the only voices we have out here. It was fascinating, if implausible, and you believe this peace will last. I don't know, Finn admitted. But I do know we've been given a chance we almost lost. Whatever comes next, we're facing it together. The door opened and Dr. Wells returned, accompanied by 2 uniformed security officers. Mr. Reeves, we need the room, she said. Finn stood. We're making progress here. The Security Council has made a decision regarding our visitor, Wells said, her expression giving nothing away. General Harrington wants to brief you before the next phase. Nara felt a spike of anxiety. What decision? Finn looked at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. I'll return soon, he promised before leaving with Dr. Wells. Alone again, Nara assessed her situation. The humans had displayed technological capabilities far beyond their expected development stage. They had unified in response to external observation. And now they were making decisions about her fate. None of this aligned with the collective's models for Level 4 civilizations. For the first time in her career as an observer, Nara wondered if the collective's non-interference policy was truly as wise as she had always believed. Finn followed Dr. Wells through the labyrinthine corridors of the newly established Xenological Relations Facility. 3 weeks ago, this had been a standard military base. Now it housed the most classified project in human history. How much did you tell her? Wells asked when they were alone in the elevator. Enough to gauge her reaction, Finn replied. She confirmed the larger ship belongs to a species called Vraxians. Apparently, they follow her people around, scavenging civilizations after they self-destruct. Wells's expression darkened. Cosmic vultures. The timing fits the pattern we've observed, Finn continued. Both ships arrived when our predictive models showed civilization collapse within days. They were expecting us to finish the job ourselves. And instead, we surprised them. Wells said with grim satisfaction as the elevator doors opened to reveal the command center. The space was a hive of activity. Screens displayed the Vraxian vessel's position, maintaining its lunar orbit. Smaller displays showed Nara's craft undergoing careful examination in a secure hangar. General Harrington stood at the central table, deep in conversation with his international counterparts, military leaders from China, Russia, India, and the European Defense Force. The scene would have been unimaginable a month ago when these nations had been actively engaged in hostilities. Reeves, Harrington acknowledged as they approached. Your assessment. She's confused, Finn reported. This isn't following her people's playbook. They expected to document our extinction, not make first contact. Can she communicate with her people or the Vraxian vessel? Asked General Li from the Chinese delegation. Unknown, Finn admitted, but her reaction to seeing the Vraxian ship was genuine surprise. I don't believe she expected them to be here yet. The Security Council has reached a decision, Harrington said. We're initiating Phase 2. Finn felt a wave of unease. Sir, with respect, she's only been here a few hours. We've barely established basic communication. Time is a luxury we don't have, Harrington replied. The Vraxian vessel changed position 2 hours ago. They're now in an optimal position for either planetary departure or weapons deployment. You think they're preparing to leave or attack? Finn asked. Neither option works for us, the Russian General Petrov interjected. If they leave, we lose our opportunity. If they attack, we're at a severe technological disadvantage. Opportunity for what? Finn pressed, though he already suspected the answer. Technological acquisition, Li stated flatly. Both vessels represent the most significant intelligence opportunity in human history. Finn looked between the assembled leaders. You're planning to use her as leverage against the Vraxians. We're ensuring human survival, Harrington corrected. The alien Nara will be transferred to Facility Omega where her ship is being studied. You'll accompany her as a liaison. To what end? To determine what technology can be adapted to our defense systems, Wells explained, particularly their detection capabilities and propulsion systems. This wasn't the plan Finn had been briefed on initially. Sir, this goes against the provisional first contact protocols. Those protocols assumed peaceful contact scenarios, Harrington responded. The Vraxians arrived expecting to scavenge our remains. That's an inherently hostile position. We don't know that for certain, Finn argued. We know enough, Li countered. Your assignment stands, Mr. Reeves. Transport departs in 30 minutes. As the generals returned to their planning, Wells drew Finn aside. This isn't ideal, but it's necessary, she said quietly. They're making a mistake, Finn insisted. Nara might be our best chance at peaceful communication with advanced civilizations. Which is exactly why you're staying with her, Wells replied. Keep building rapport, learn everything you can. While she's essentially a prisoner. Wells's expression softened slightly. The alternatives were much worse, believe me. There were voices calling for immediate military solutions. She came to observe, not to help us, Finn reminded her. She made that clear. Then help her observe something worth reporting, Wells suggested. Show her that humans aren't just another self-destructive species. Finn considered this as they walked back toward Nara's containment room. Perhaps that was the best approach, not just extracting information from her, but providing a different narrative than the one her people expected. When they reached the room, security was already preparing for transport. What's happening? Nara asked as Finn entered. We're moving to a different facility, he explained, where your ship has been taken. Her expression shifted subtly concern, perhaps even fear. Why? Security protocols, Finn said, not quite meeting her eyes. I'll be accompanying you. As my liaison or my jailer, the directness of her question caught him off guard. I'm here to ensure mutual understanding, he replied carefully, and to learn more about your people. While your scientists study my technology, she added. Finn didn't deny it. Your arrival has accelerated certain research priorities. Nara stood, her modified human appearance not quite hiding the alien grace of her movements. Your species was killing itself 3 weeks ago. Now you seek advanced technology. Has it occurred to you that this pattern might be exactly why my people don't interfere? The question landed like a physical blow. We're trying to protect ourselves. From what? The Vraxians won't attack unless provoked. My people are observers only. And the next visitors, Finn countered, or the ones after that, we've just discovered we're not alone in the universe. Prudence suggests we prepare for all possibilities. Something changed in Nara's expression, a subtle shift he couldn't quite interpret. Your conflict cessation, it's temporary, isn't it? Just long enough to acquire technology you can use against each other when this crisis passes. No, Finn said firmly, that's not what's happening. Isn't it? Your military leaders have stopped fighting each other to focus on a common goal. Technological acquisition. Once achieved, what prevents them from returning to their previous conflicts, but with more advanced weapons? The question hit uncomfortably close to concerns Finn had harbored himself. The pace of the military's interest in alien technology had seemed excessive even for defensive purposes. "We're not all the same," he said finally. "Some of us see this as an opportunity for more than just new weapons." "What do you see it as?" Nara asked. Before Finn could answer, the door opened and security personnel entered to escort them to transport. "Time to go," one of them announced. As they were led outside to a waiting aircraft, Finn noticed Nara studying everything intently: the base layout, the personnel, the equipment. Always observing even now. The transport was a military VTOL craft, modified for high-security transport. Inside, Nara was directed to a seat across from Finn, with two armed guards positioned nearby. As the craft lifted off, Finn made a decision. Reaching into his pocket, he disabled the small recording device. He was required to wear a breach of protocol that could cost him his position. "To answer your question," he said quietly, "I see this as a chance to prove that humanity is capable of more than self-destruction, that we can learn and grow and maybe, just maybe, earn our place among the stars." Nara studied him with those two perfect eyes. "And if your leaders don't share that vision, then those of us who do will have to work harder to ensure it prevails," he replied. For the first time since her arrival, something like genuine interest flickered across Nara's features. "You would oppose your own leadership." "I would advocate for a better path," Finn clarified. "Humanity united against a common threat is progress, but it's not enough. We need to unite towards something, not just against something." "A philosophical distinction your species has historically struggled with," Nara observed. "True," Finn acknowledged, "but we're adaptable." The ghost of a smile touched her lips. "That remains to be seen." As the transport carried them toward Facility Omega, Finn realized Nara wasn't just an alien observer anymore. She had become something far more important, a witness to humanity's moment of choice between fear and hope, between weapons and wisdom. And somehow, showing her that humanity was capable of choosing the better path had become intensely personal to him. The fate of two civilizations might depend on whether her report to the Ren Collective portrayed humans as just another failed species or as something unexpected. Facility Omega sat buried inside a mountain range, originally constructed as a doomsday bunker during the Cold War and continuously upgraded over decades. 3 weeks ago, it had been prepared for government continuity in case of nuclear escalation. Now it served a different purpose: Earth's first extraterrestrial research center. As their transport descended into the camouflaged landing bay, Finn watched Nara's reaction. Her expression remained neutral, but her eyes darted everywhere, cataloging details. "Impressive defensive position," she noted as they disembarked. "Natural protection against orbital targeting." "That's not comforting," Finn replied. "Just an observation," she said. "Your species has always excelled at hiding from threats." Security personnel led them through a series of checkpoints, each requiring increasingly complex authorization. Finn noticed Nara studying the security protocols with professional interest. "Your clearance systems are redundant," she commented as they passed through yet another scanner. "Redundancy saves lives," Finn said. "It also reveals fear." "Caution," he corrected. A slight smile touched her lips. Semantics. They were led into a section of the facility that had clearly been recently modified. The walls were freshly painted, and new equipment hummed efficiently. At the center of a large chamber sat Nara's ship, surrounded by scanning equipment and scientists in protective gear. Nara stopped abruptly at the sight. "They shouldn't be doing that." Finn followed her gaze to where technicians were attempting to access a panel on the ship's exterior. "Is there danger?" "Not to them," she said. "The ship's neural interface will interpret their actions as hostile and implement safety protocols." "What kind of protocols?" "Data purging, mainly. They won't get anything useful." She didn't sound concerned, merely factual. As if on cue, there was a flash of light from the ship and the technicians jumped back. Alarms sounded briefly before being silenced. "The ship just fried all of its accessible memory cores," a scientist called out, frustration evident in her voice. "Everything's gone." Nara gave Finn a look that bordered on smug. "As I said." A man in a lab coat approached them rapidly. "Is this the pilot?" he demanded without preamble. "Dr. Ellis, this is Nara," Finn introduced. "Nara, this is Dr. Ellis, head of our technology assessment team." Ellis barely acknowledged the introduction. "Your vessel just destroyed critical research data. Was that your doing?" The ship follows standard collective protocols, Nara replied calmly. Unauthorized access triggers automatic security measures. You need to override them, Ellis insisted. I cannot. Cannot or will not. Both, Nara said simply. The protocols exist precisely to prevent technology transfer to developing species. Ellis's face reddened. We're not some primitive tribe you need to protect from fire. From our perspective, the distinction is minimal, Nara replied. A species that was on the brink of self-destruction 3 weeks ago is not ready for technology that could destroy stellar systems. The bluntness of her assessment created an uncomfortable silence. Dr. Ellis, Finn interjected, perhaps we should focus on communication rather than technology extraction for now. Ellis glared at him. My orders come directly from the Joint Command. We need defensive capabilities against the Vraxian vessel. And I'm telling you that's impossible without Nara's cooperation, Finn countered, which we won't get through coercion. For a moment, Ellis looked ready to argue further, but instead turned back toward the ship with a dismissive wave. Get what you can from her, we'll continue our work. After he left, Nara studied Finn. Your people are persistent. Survival tends to motivate us, he replied. What exactly do you fear from the Vraxians? Finn hesitated. They arrived expecting to find our civilization destroyed. That suggests they're comfortable with our extinction. Observation and scavenging are not the same as causing extinction, Nara pointed out. Maybe not, but waiting nearby for it to happen doesn't exactly make them our friends. Nara considered this. I can tell you with certainty that the Vraxians pose no threat unless directly provoked. They're gatherers, not conquerors. You'll forgive us if we don't stake our species' survival on that assurance, Finn said. Then what would convince you? The question caught him off guard. Are you offering something? I'm asking what it would take for your leaders to focus on communication rather than weapon development. Finn considered carefully. Information about the Vraxians, about your collective, about why you're both here. The less mystery, the less fear. Nara nodded slowly. That's reasonable, but information exchange should be mutual. What do you want to know? How you detected our ships, she said immediately. That capability is well beyond your expected technological development. Finn tensed slightly. This was classified at the highest levels. I can't discuss that. Then our information exchange will be limited, Nara replied without rancor. They had reached an impasse. Finn knew he couldn't reveal the truth about how Earth had detected the alien vessels, not without authorization far above his clearance level. But without that exchange, Nara would likely withhold critical information. I need to speak with my superiors, he finally said. There may be a compromise possible. I'll wait, Nara said, her gaze returning to the scientists working on her ship. Though your technologists might grow increasingly frustrated in the meantime. Finn left her under guard and made his way to the facility's command center. General Harrington had arrived while they were in transit and was reviewing data with his international counterparts. Sir, we have a situation, Finn reported after being acknowledged. The ship's security protocols, Harrington nodded. Ellis already reported the data purge. Nara is willing to provide information about the Vraxians and her people, but she wants reciprocal sharing specifically about how we detected their ships. The generals exchanged glances. Absolutely not, General Lee said immediately. We need to consider the possibility, General Petrov countered, if the Vraxians pose a genuine threat. We don't know that they do, a British officer interjected. That's the point. Harrington held up a hand, silencing the debate. What's your assessment of her trustworthiness, Reeves? She's been straightforward so far, Finn replied carefully. She seems genuinely confused by our unified response and technological capabilities. I believe she's telling the truth about the Vraxians being scavengers rather than conquerors. And you believe sharing classified information about our detection capabilities is worth the risk. Finn chose his words with care. I believe providing limited information about how we detected their ships would demonstrate good faith and potentially gain critical intelligence about species that are clearly more advanced than we are. Harrington considered this, then gestured for Finn to follow him to a more private area of the command center. What you're proposing goes against security protocols established by every major power, Harrington said once they were alone. With respect, sir, those protocols were written before we had alien visitors, Finn pointed out. The detection technology is our only significant advantage, Harrington countered, if we reveal its source. We reveal that we're not alone in wanting peaceful contact, Finn finished. Harrington's eyes narrowed. You've developed a rapport with the alien. Her name is Nara, Finn said. And yes, I've established communication, that's my job. Your job is to gather intelligence, not advocate for disclosure. Sir, she knows something is unusual about our technological capabilities. If we don't provide some explanation, she'll report that discrepancy to her people, potentially raising more questions than if we were transparent. Harrington studied him for a long moment. You genuinely believe this is the right approach. I believe that how we handle first contact will define humanity's place in whatever comes next, Finn said. If we approach this from fear and secrecy, that's the relationship we'll establish. If we demonstrate cautious openness, we might gain allies rather than wary observers. After a long silence, Harrington sighed. You're authorized to share Level 3 information only, nothing about the origin or specific capabilities. Just enough to satisfy her curiosity without compromising our security. Thank you, sir. Don't make me regret this, Reeves, Harrington warned. If this backfires, it won't just be your career at stake. Finn nodded and returned to where Nara waited, still watching the scientists with mild interest. Your people are persistent but uncoordinated, she observed as he approached. 5 different teams attempting different approaches with minimal communication between them. We tend to try multiple solutions simultaneously, Finn explained. It's inefficient but increases the chances of breakthrough. An interesting approach, she conceded. Have your leaders decided whether to trust me with information? Limited information, Finn clarified. I can explain some aspects of how we detected your ships, but not all the details. Nara nodded. That's acceptable for a starting point. Should we find somewhere more comfortable for this exchange? Finn led her to a small conference room designed for secure briefings. Once seated across from each other, he activated the privacy system that would prevent electronic surveillance, another breach of protocol, but one he deemed necessary. 3 weeks ago, he began, when the first indications of the Vraxian ship appeared, our detection systems weren't capable of identifying it. We received assistance. From whom? Nara asked, leaning forward slightly. Another extraterrestrial entity, Finn admitted, one that had been observing Earth for longer than we realized. Surprise registered plainly on Nara's face. Another species here. Yes. They made contact with select scientific institutions just as our global conflict was reaching critical mass. They provided specific detection algorithms calibrated to identify certain energy signatures, including your reflection dampers. This is unexpected, Nara said slowly. The collective maintains strict monitoring of all observation zones. No other species should have been present. Apparently your monitoring isn't as comprehensive as you believed, Finn suggested. They've been here for decades, watching quietly. What species? Nara pressed. There are protocols for observation assignment. They called themselves the Archivist Contingent, Finn said. They claimed their purpose was to preserve cultural knowledge from developing civilizations, particularly those at risk of self-termination. Nara's expression shifted to something Finn couldn't quite interpret: shock, perhaps, or concern. The Archivists are a splinter faction, she said after a moment. They separated from the main collective over philosophical differences centuries ago. They're not supposed to initiate contact. Well, they did, Finn said. And it's fortunate they chose that moment. Their warning about the approaching Vraxian vessel gave Earth's leaders context they desperately needed. The Archivists oppose the collective's non-interference policy, Nara explained. They believe some civilizations deserve preservation assistance. She shook her head. This complicates matters considerably. From our perspective, it simplified them, Finn countered. When faced with evidence of external observation and potential threat, human nations made a choice that would have seemed impossible days earlier. Unity through shared adversity, Nara mused. A common pattern, though usually temporary. Perhaps, Finn acknowledged, but it's a start. Nara studied him with renewed intensity. The Archivists must have seen something in humanity they deemed worth preserving. They rarely intervene without substantial justification. Maybe they just thought we deserved a chance to prove we're better than our worst moments. Or perhaps they've grown more interventionist over time, Nara suggested. This represents a significant breach of established cosmic protocols. From where I'm sitting, those protocols seem designed to let developing civilizations die rather than help them, Finn said. If that's cosmic law, maybe it deserves to be breached. Nara didn't respond immediately, seeming to process this perspective. Your turn for questions, she finally said. Finn had prepared for this, the Vraxians. What exactly do they want, and what would provoke them to hostility? The Vraxians evolved in a resource-scarce system, Nara explained. Their entire civilization is built around efficient utilization of materials. They follow observer ships to worlds on the brink of collapse, then harvest abandoned technology, minerals, and biological samples after the indigenous population has extinguished itself. That's ghoulish. It's practical, Nara corrected. They don't cause the extinctions, they merely ensure the remaining resources don't go to waste. But they arrived early this time, Finn pointed out, before our civilization had completely collapsed. Yes, Nara agreed, looking troubled. That's a protocol violation. They're supposed to wait until after confirmed extinction. Which suggests... I cannot say with certainty, Nara admitted. But the most likely explanation is that they've grown more aggressive in their resource acquisition timing. The collective will not approve. Would they attack us directly? Finn pressed. Vraxians avoid direct conflict, it's inefficient. They prefer to wait for civilizations to destroy themselves. But if they couldn't wait, if, say, humanity stopped trying to destroy itself, Nara considered this scenario. In that case, they would likely depart to find a more promising harvesting opportunity. Direct conquest consumes too many resources to be worthwhile for their economic model. Finn felt a weight lift from his shoulders. So if we maintain our ceasefire and global cooperation, they'll probably leave. Eventually, Nara confirmed, though they may observe for some time to confirm the trend. And your people, the Ren Collective. What happens when you report that we didn't destroy ourselves as predicted? That, Nara hesitated, that is more complicated. Our predictive models have been refined over thousands of years of observation. A sudden deviation would require extensive analysis. But you wouldn't intervene, try to push us back toward conflict. Nara looked genuinely shocked. Of course not. The collective observes we never manipulate outcomes. Unlike the archivists, Finn noted. Yes, Nara acknowledged. That is their fundamental heresy, the belief that some civilizations deserve preservation assistance. And you disagree. It's not about agreement. It's about cosmic order. Natural development must proceed without external influence, even if that means extinction for species that might otherwise survive and flourish. Nara's expression suggested this was an uncomfortable question. The developmental path of any species includes their choices, including self-destructive ones. What if the path changes? What if humans choose differently now that we have new perspective? Then you would be among the statistical anomalies, Nara said. Species that reach the brink of self-destruction and then reverse course are extremely rare. But not unprecedented, Finn noted. No, she admitted, not unprecedented. An alarm suddenly blared through the facility. Red emergency lights began flashing in the corridor outside. What's happening? Nara asked, rising from her seat. Finn moved to the door, checking the security panel. Unknown. We should return to the main area. As they entered the corridor, facility personnel were moving with urgent purpose. Finn stopped a passing security officer. Situation report. The Vraxian vessel has changed position, the officer replied hurriedly. Moving into lower orbit, all personnel to emergency stations. Finn felt a surge of adrenaline. They're preparing to attack. Unknown, sir. Command center has ordered facility lockdown. Finn turned to Nara, who looked genuinely concerned. You said they don't attack. They don't, she insisted. This is abnormal behavior. Then we need to get to the command center, Finn decided. Your insight might be critical. They made their way through increasingly chaotic corridors until reaching the command center. Inside, Harrington and the international leadership team were gathered around display screens showing the Vraxian vessel's new position. Reeves, Harrington acknowledged tersely. Why is the alien here? Sir, Nara has expertise regarding Vraxian behavior. This movement pattern concerns her as well. Harrington studied Nara briefly, then nodded. What can you tell us about this maneuver? It's unusual, Nara said, examining the display. Vraxians typically maintain observation distance until certain of a civilization's collapse. They've moved to approximately 100 kilometers above the atmosphere, a technical officer reported. Still descending slowly. Energy readings, Harrington asked. Consistent with propulsion systems. No weapons signatures detected, but our analysis is limited by our understanding of their technology. Could this be preparation for resource collection? Finn asked Nara. No, she said firmly. Their harvesting protocols require confirmed extinction before approach. This movement indicates something else. Some kind of first contact, General Lee suggested. Vraxians don't initiate contact with developing species, Nara explained. It's antithetical to their economic model. Unless they're changing their model, Finn suggested. Just as they arrived earlier than your protocols dictated. A communications officer suddenly straightened. Sir, we're detecting a transmission from the Vraxian vessel. The room fell silent. What kind of transmission? Harrington asked. It appears to be a standard radio broadcast, directed toward our global communications network. They're trying to communicate with us, General Petrov sounded incredulous. Put it through, Harrington ordered. After a moment of static, a voice emerged from the speakers, not human, but speaking perfect English. People of Earth, your extinction event has been canceled. This alters our resource collection timeline. We would discuss alternatives. The message repeated once, then silence fell. All eyes turned to Nara, who looked genuinely stunned. This is unprecedented, she whispered. Vraxians never negotiate with developing species. What alternatives could they possibly want to discuss? General Lee demanded. I don't know, Nara admitted. This falls completely outside established protocols. Harrington turned to his communications officer. Prepare a response. We're willing to discuss but require assurances of non-hostile intent. Sir, Finn interjected, we should consider the possibility that the Vraxians are reacting to the same thing we did the intervention of the archivists. Nara nodded slowly. That would explain their unusual behavior. If they detected archivist interference, they might be adapting their approach. Meaning what exactly? Harrington asked. The cosmic balance of observation and non-interference has been disrupted, Nara explained. When the archivists contacted you, they changed the equation for everyone. The Vraxians may be adjusting to this new reality. By talking instead of waiting for us to die, Finn suggested. Precisely, Nara agreed. If they can no longer rely on your self-destruction, they must find other means to achieve their resource goals. So they want to negotiate for our resources rather than scavenge them, General Petrov concluded. That's still a threat, but a fundamentally different one, Finn pointed out. Negotiation implies recognition of our right to exist. The communications officer raised a hand. Sir, we've received a second transmission. More specific this time. Let's hear it, Harrington ordered. The Vraxian voice returned. We note the presence of a Ren Collective observer ship. We request joint communication with both Earth representatives and the collective observer. Immediate response required. This created a stir among the leadership. They know you're here, Finn said to Nara, and they want you involved in the discussion. This situation grows increasingly irregular, Nara replied, genuine concern in her voice. Harrington turned to the assembled leaders. Recommendations. We engage, General Lee said firmly. Knowledge is our best defense. Agreed, Petrov nodded, but with extreme caution. And the collective observer, Harrington asked, looking at Nara. I am not authorized for direct negotiation, she said, but given the unprecedented nature of these developments, I believe my participation is justified under emergency protocols. You'll help us, Finn asked. Nara met his eyes. I'll help maintain cosmic balance. The archivists have already interfered. The Vraxians are deviating from established patterns. The situation requires flexibility. Harrington nodded, draft a response. We accept their request for joint communication. As the communications team prepared the message, Finn moved closer to Nara. Thank you, he said quietly. Don't thank me yet, she replied. This situation has no precedent. I cannot predict the outcome. Welcome to how humanity feels all the time, Finn said with a grim smile. For the first time, Nara's expression softened into something almost like humor. Perhaps that's why you're such a statistical anomaly. Unpredictability seems to be your species-defining trait. That and our stubborn refusal to die when we're supposed to, Finn added. Yes, Nara agreed, watching as the response was transmitted to the Vraxian vessel. I'm beginning to understand why the archivists found you worth preserving. The next hour passed in tense preparation. A secure communication channel was established, and a delegation selected Harrington representing military interests, Dr. Wells for scientific concerns, a UN diplomat named Rashid for political matters, and Finn to maintain continuity with Nara. They gathered in a conference room specially prepared for the exchange, with multiple layers of recording equipment and security personnel standing by. Remember, Harrington instructed. We share nothing about our detection capabilities beyond what's already been disclosed. Our priority is understanding their intentions without committing to any resource concessions. And if they demand concessions, Rashid asked. We defer, cite need for global consensus by time, Harrington replied. The screen at the front of the room flickered to life. Instead of a video feed, it displayed a shifting pattern of light, presumably the Vraxian communication interface. Greetings, Earth Delegation and Ren Observer, a voice emerged from the speakers. I am Collector Prime Vezin. This exchange is irregular but necessary given recent developments. This is General Marcus Harrington, Earth Defense Command. We accept this communication in the spirit of peaceful exchange. Peace is inefficient but occasionally necessary, the Vraxian responded. Our mission parameters have been disrupted by your species' deviation from predicted extinction patterns. Additionally, we detect archivist interference in violation of cosmic protocols. Nara stepped forward. This is Observer Nara of the Ren Collective. The archivist interference was unknown to the collective until now. Acknowledged, Observer. This creates an imbalance requiring adjustment. What adjustment do you propose? Harrington asked carefully. The resource acquisition through post-extinction salvage is no longer viable in acceptable timeframes, the Vraxian explained with clinical detachment. Alternative acquisition methods must be established. Earth's resources belong to humanity, Rashid stated firmly. We are not open to exploitation. Exploitation is inefficient, the Vraxian countered. We propose an exchange, resources for technology. This caught everyone by surprise. What kind of technology? Dr. Wells asked, unable to contain her scientific curiosity. Propulsion, energy generation, atmospheric refinement. The light patterns shifted. Sufficient to elevate your species beyond self-destruction capability. Balanced exchange for mineral rights in your outer system. Finn glanced at Nara, who looked genuinely shocked. This proposal violates collective non-interference protocols, she said. Protocols already violated by archivist action, the Vraxian responded. Imbalance requires correction. If humans survive, they must accelerate to stability. Resource exchange creates mutual benefit. The human delegates exchanged glances. We would need to discuss any such proposal with our full governmental bodies, Harrington said carefully. This is beyond our authority to negotiate. Understandable, preliminary agreement in principle is sufficient for initial protocol adjustment. Finn leaned toward Nara. Is this legitimate? Would they really trade technology for resources? It's unprecedented, she whispered back, but logical from their perspective. If they can no longer wait for extinction, creating a mutually beneficial relationship maximizes efficiency. Harrington noticed their exchange. Observer Nara, what is your assessment of this proposal? Nara straightened. The Vraxians are resource collectors by nature. Their proposal likely represents a genuine adaptation to changed circumstances. However, technology transfer of this magnitude would fundamentally alter your development path. For better or worse, Dr. Wells asked. Unknown, Nara admitted. The natural development sequence has already been disrupted by archivist interference. We require a response, the Vraxian voice interjected. Principal agreement or rejection. Harrington looked at his fellow delegates, then back at the screen. We agree in principle to continued discussion of a mutual exchange, pending approval from Earth's governing bodies. Acceptable, the Vraxian responded. Secondary communication protocols will be transmitted. Vessel will maintain its current position, awaiting formal negotiation parameters. The light pattern shifted, then the screen went dark. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Rashid broke the silence. Did we just agree to preliminary trade negotiations with an alien species? I believe we did, Dr. Wells said, sounding both excited and concerned. Harrington turned to Nara. What just happened here? Is this normal behavior for Vraxians? No, Nara said firmly. This represents a fundamental shift in their approach. Historically, they have never engaged with species below level 5 development. What changed? Finn asked. Nara considered carefully. When the archivists interfered by warning you about the Vraxian arrival, they disrupted established protocols. When your species unified instead of completing its self-destruction sequence, you created an anomaly. The Vraxians are adapting to this new reality with remarkable speed. And this technology they're offering, Dr. Wells pressed, would it be genuine? Vraxians do not deceive in resource negotiations, Nara confirmed. It's inefficient. However, the level of technology would be carefully calibrated to advance your capabilities without creating new existential risks. We need to inform the Security Council immediately, Harrington decided. This changes everything. As the delegates dispersed to begin the process of reporting this unprecedented development, Finn remained with Nara. Your people won't approve of this, he guessed. The collective's non-interference protocols are absolute, Nara confirmed, or they were supposed to be. Will you report the archivist's actions? Nara hesitated. My duty as an observer requires complete accuracy in reporting. But, Finn prompted, sensing her uncertainty. But the situation has complexity I had not anticipated, she admitted. I was sent to document humanity's extinction. Instead, I'm witnessing something unprecedented, a level 4 civilization reversing its path towards self-destruction after external context was provided. And that interests you, Finn suggested. It challenges established models, Nara said carefully. The collective's approach assumes developing species follow predictable patterns. Your response to the Vraxian presence was not predictable. Is that a compliment? Finn asked with a small smile. An observation, Nara corrected, but her expression had softened, though perhaps one worth extended study. Extended study, does that mean you're staying? With the Vraxians initiating formal contact and the archivists already involved, the situation requires collective monitoring, she reasoned. A prolonged observation mission would be justified. Finn felt an unexpected sense of relief, so I'll continue as your liaison. That would provide continuity, Nara agreed, a little too quickly. Before they could continue, Dr. Wells appeared at the door. Finn, we need you in the command center. The Security Council is convening an emergency session, and General Harrington wants your input on the alien communications. I'll be right there, he assured her before turning back to Nara. This is just the beginning, isn't it? Nara nodded. Yes, whatever happens next will be without precedent for both our peoples. As they walked together toward the command center, Finn considered the staggering implications. 3 weeks ago, humanity had been on the brink of self-annihilation. Now they were discussing technology exchange with one alien civilization while another remained to observe the outcome. All because someone had decided humans deserved a chance to prove they could be better than their worst instincts. Can I ask you something? Finn said as they approached the command center. Of course. If you had been the one to discover us first, not the archivists, would you have made the same choice, to warn us, to give us a chance? Nara was silent for several steps. Before meeting you, no, she finally said. I would have followed protocols and observed without interference. And now, she met his eyes, something new in her expression. Now I understand why the archivists separated from the collective. Some things deserve preservation, even at the cost of perfect objectivity. Like Earth. Like hope, Nara corrected, the possibility that a species can learn from its mistakes, that pattern can be broken. That extinction isn't inevitable. It wasn't quite a declaration of faith in humanity. But coming from a being whose entire existence had been dedicated to detached observation, it felt remarkably close. As they entered the command center, where Earth's leaders were already gathering virtually to discuss this unprecedented moment in human history, Finn realized something profound had shifted, not just between nations, but between worlds. The Vraxians had come expecting to harvest the remains of a dead civilization. Nara had come to document humanity's final self-destructive act. The archivists had intervened, believing humans deserved one last chance. And humanity, given that chance, given just the slightest nudge of cosmic perspective, had chosen unity over annihilation. Perhaps that, more than any technology or resource exchange, was the true miracle. The moment when a species looked up from its own conflicts, saw it was being observed, and decided to show the watchers something unexpected. Not the predictable extinction of yet another violent civilization, but the birth of something new, a humanity united not just against a common threat, but toward a common future among the stars. Nara stood beside him now, no longer just an observer, but a participant in whatever came next. And as the screens filled with the faces of world leaders preparing to navigate humanity's first steps into a larger universe, Finn couldn't help but think that the observers had become the observed. The universe had been watching Earth, expecting tragedy. Instead, they would witness possibility.